to choose free will in the first place. I am not deterministically determined to choose determinism. Therefore, it is easy for me to choose free will. But for someone who is deterministically determined to choose determinism, for them choosing free will would require a lot of free will. So again, you need, as I talked about in the initial segment of the video, that you need free will, that free will is recursive and self-referential, that you will need free will to have free will, and you can choose free will or determinism after having free will in the first place. So it's like you can be deterministic after being free will, but you cannot be free will by being deterministic. In a way, that's what I'm going to talk about. What I see is, it's not like free will exists as a person or it doesn't exist. I think fundamentally we are born as animals, and animalistically we are deterministic. But it's up to us to be human enough, and to be human enough has the property of being free willed. Okay, hi there. This is my 5th attempt of recording this video, not majorly because of some technical problem, but because of the philosophical problem. I guess it's the first time I'm facing this, but the topic is such a complex topic that in spite of scripting it once, that I generally don't do, I'm facing this problem. Or it might also be because the first time I tried to record it, I used the chat GPT to script it in the first time I did that, and it did not work out well, because generally I talk very naturally in my videos. I just write down some points and talk about it, but yeah, it was chaotic to include LLM in this part of life as well. Yeah, anyhow, currently I am in Oxford. It is around London, the Oxford, real Oxford, not some Oxford primary school or Oxford secondary school. It is kind of a surreal experience for me to come here and be able to record this video. But yeah, the content is more important, not the place. I think that this might get too complicated for people who don't have that much of philosophical background and don't properly understand the words that I'm going to use, like determinism, free will in like proper sense. So if you're one of the person, just skip this video, or probably just mail me after watching this video. We can talk about it if you really want to understand. If you don't understand, nothing can be done. Again, as always, these are just objective things that I'm talking about from my own subjective experience that you need to apply, that you need to understand objectively to apply subjectively. So subjective experience made objective theory. You understand the objective theory, apply it in your subjective life. Subjective, objective, objective, subjective. That kind of path in a way. Communication. Technology. Yeah. Okay. In this whole of the video, I'll be majorly talking about free will, as you might have already figured out. And you can just take a converse of it, or just inverse it in some way and get some kind of definition or idea about determinism as well. I have tried to structure all of my points, all of these things in a way that it can be just inverted and made into a thing about determinism. So you can just do it on your own, use your brain if you have one, and if you don't have one, then don't watch even this video, because free will is a too complex topic for someone with no brain to comprehend. So let us just directly jump in the topic. Okay, TLW, too long didn't watch. I think that's a thing today these days, given the such a less attention spans of a lot of people. So too long didn't watch. If you don't watch the whole thing, my opinion, and opinion is in bold and under quotations, whatever I call it, highlighted. So it is my opinion about free will. Obviously there is no way to talk about free will in concrete manner. So big disclaimer, everything that I will be saying in this video will be my opinion, will be I think, just put I think before that, or I feel before that, or I believe before that. These are not absolute truth or absolute verdict of mine. Obviously I might change them tomorrow. So yeah, just my current best opinion about these things. Okay, so my opinion is that reality is neither purely deterministic nor free willed. Yeah, in the first place. Yeah. I'm not gonna give you a definite answer in this video. I think no one can give any wise rule. Let us ASI come, artificial intelligence come. Let us ask them what is the true nature of reality, free will or deterministic. But yeah, it is my opinion. Let me talk about that. My opinion is that reality is neither fully deterministic nor free will. I'm inclined towards free will. Just being honest, I'm inclined towards free will. I have recently listed down a lot of dichotomies, fundamental dichotomies into reality, among which determinism and free will was one of the points. The subjectivity, objectivity was one of the points, and there are some other points as well. And it's like none of them is true. The reality is neither subjective nor objective. The ethical system is neither subjective nor objective. It's obviously a mix of them, and this is how I define wisdom in a way, to be able to choose that which one to use at which time. Because I don't know there is antonym of wisdom or not, but there is also a proper existence of antonym of wisdom. I think Machiavelli would be the word, Machiavellian philosophy, in which you can just completely go against your wisdom, I guess psychopathic way, and just utilize free will or deterministic paths or philosophies to create mayhem. So it's all about you, how you wanna use this thing. But yeah, the reality is neither deterministic nor free will. not just with this kind of, we can also play around with subjectivity and objectivity and use them in a very wrong context, in a very wrong way, signifying that you are very less wise, but it can be used. So the reality is neither subjective nor deterministic. It all depends upon how you use it, and that way that you use it defines the wisdom that you have. Okay, second point. Free will is a consciousness phenomena, that is, humane ability of humans. Although free will is seeded into it, but it is not all that is essential for it to manifest. So this is one of the ways I link or I think about free will. I link it with consciousness. I'm not trying to do that thing that to explain one unexplained phenomena you base it on another unexplained phenomena. I'm not trying to do that, but whenever I have tried to analyze it and go through the correlations or form some kind of causation and correlation pattern, this is what I see, that wherever there is consciousness, there is a chance of free will. That is the most humane ability of humans. Like, humans have a lot of traits, and a part of humans is animalistic because we have evolved from animals, but the part of humans that is not animalistic and that is solely available to humans, I call those as human abilities. And among those human abilities is free will. So free will is a consciousness phenomena that is one of the humane abilities of human. Although free will is seeded into consciousness, as consciousness is one of the fundamental thing that is required for free will, it is not all that is necessary. So it's not necessary that if you are a human and you have consciousness, so you will have free will. It's not that. Free will is an essential or eligibility criteria, but that is not all what is required to have free will. Being able to choose whether you want to go with free will or you want to go to a deterministic path is also a part of free will. So self-referential or recursive free will, having the free will of choosing free will, is also about free will, and it depends upon human. And along with just having consciousness, you need a lot of other stuff that I'll talk further in the video, but all those things are also essential. Therefore rocks, I don't think, would be considered as free will. Also, like, if you go by the panpsychism definitions, then rocks does have consciousness and therefore they should have free will. But as I said initially, consciousness is not all that is needed for free will, but consciousness is an essential thing that is needed for free will. I can just remove consciousness from this equation, because if you just go from panpsychism definition, consciousness becomes so useless to pinpoint at anything. But I'm just keeping it because this is a kind of correlation that I've found over the years. Yeah, so I have just found out these two correlations or relations, whatever I call them, and based on that I have laid down this structure that you can see on the screen right now. I hope you can. As usual, there is beautiful symmetry and interdependence. This cycle has both it's a bidirectional cycle. It goes like this and then goes like this. Unlike some of the cycles that I have talked about in previous video, like the P3 one, pyar, purpose and principle, that one, I don't even remember the actual cycle, but this is a bidirectional cycle. And again, I have thought about it very well and analyzed things very well, and try to make this as appropriate as possible. It's not completely detailed, like you have every element that is necessary. Obviously you can, within this 11 or 10 elements, you can put multiple sub elements. It is not that detailed that I'm not missing anything. It's obviously an abstraction, but it's also not too vague that I have just written free will, awareness and power, that's all. Obviously it's not like that as well. I find this as a good medium ground. In awareness leads to free will, that is a responsibility which provides power. So this is the fundamental relation that I have to talk about. Awareness leads to free will, and free will is a responsibility that leads to power. Tracing that down gets to awareness back. So if you just trace down power, you'll again get back to awareness. So that is the whole video. TLW done. Okay, in this whole of the structure, I think there are 2 points where I need to add some extra details, except for what is already obvious. One is from awareness to free will, and then the other is from free will to power. Rest all is obviously more coherent and more easy to understand. So in the A Bit About Love video, I talked about this thing, how awareness is essential in a lot of way to be able to make changes to yourself. That was a different context, but free will is also related to that. If you'll be aware about a file, then you'll be able to properly be able to access it. And to be free, you need to be aware of things, and I talked about this thing more in the A Bit About Love video, an article you can just go and read about. Or basically what you have to do is realize what is determinism. So it's like a natty approach, falsifiability approach in a way. So basically you understand what is not, and by that you deduce what is. I know there's always a big gap, and especially in epistemology and philosophy, that if something is not A, then that doesn't obviously implies that that's B. But at least you get in some area of B and you get away from A. So if you are properly aware about yourself and realize what is deterministic, then you can at least get away from the determinism and you will fall somewhere in the path of free will, and you will have more chances of choosing or making a free decision. Okay, now the main cycle has elements: free will, power, responsibility, courage, conviction, strength, purpose, suffering, honesty, confrontation, awareness, and that again leads to free will. You can, the way that I'm going to describe it, the one pass or one way in this bidirectional loop is from awareness to free will, or from confrontation to free will, because awareness leads to confrontation, that leads to free will, and awareness can directly lead to free will. So awareness can lead to free will in two kind of manners, if you want to see that. In this cycle, like all of these elements can lead to both free will or any of the, like again it's a bidirectional cycle. So it's like courage can both lead to free will, and courage can lead to free will in this direction as well. From courage, responsibility, power, and free will you can reach through that way, and from courage, conviction, strength you can reach to free will in that way as well. So both of them are possible. Both of them require different kind of personality traits, different kind of way to see the world, and both have their own differences, but both of them will lead to free will. So like if you're in this cycle, and if you come from any point, depending upon what is your strength is, what is your background is, what you already are good at, so you can reach to free will if you just follow the other paths properly. Like let's say if you have honesty by default in you, then from honesty, suffering, purpose you can reach to free will, or by honesty, confrontation, awareness you can reach to free will. So this is one of the good things that I see about the structure. Obviously it is complex to understand both of the cycle. For me also it will be very hard to explain both of the cycle, both because of the time constraint, I don't want to make a long video, and because of the other one being so subtle and implicit that it will be hard to understand. So if you understand one cycle easily and properly, then you can obviously just not reverse it, correlate it in a way to understand how the other cycle will go. I will try to give some examples of it when I am talking about it. Okay, first one is having free will is a power, and obviously with power comes responsibility. So having free will is a power, like that's a given statement. I'll talk about it later somehow, but yeah, let's assume that having free will is a power. The more free you are, the more power you have. I don't want to talk about it in details because for me it seems obvious, but you can think of it like the more free you will be, the less deterministically you will be moved by, and the less amount of control other will have on you, and therefore the more power you'll have on yourself. So if you don't make your decisions, someone else will make for you. So if you have free will, then you will make your decisions and someone else will not make your decisions, and therefore you'll have more power over you. This is what I'm talking about. You can just use a bit of your mind to understand. So free will is a power, obviously, and with power comes responsibility, like Spider-Man, again given that you're not a villain. So with power of free will comes the responsibility of handling free will properly. To take on and handle the responsibility, one must have conviction of bravery, to be courageous enough to face adversities that comes inherently on such path. So to handle this responsibility, you must have the conviction, as in belief about bravery, and have the courage to be able to face the adversities that come on this path. Because like if you are free will and you make a choice, someone has not made a choice and you have made a choice for yourself, it's not like all of the decisions that you make for yourself would be right or wrong. Like free will doesn't ensure that the will that you have is absolutely correct. It just means that you have made it by your own. So it takes a responsibility. You'll have to take a responsibility. You'll have to be brave to choose something and to live with that. Again, Charles Bukowski, find something that loves you and let it kill you. So you have to choose something that you want to be killed by, in a way. So similarly, in this kind of context, I'm just getting too detoured by all the quotations and all. You need to be brave enough to able to face the outcomes, so whatever the outcomes will come, because there will be no one to blame at that moment that I did this because of this path of deterministic way. You have to take the responsibility, the blame, the accountability part. So for that you need to be courageous and obviously face the adversities that come on this kind of path. So free will is a tough path because responsibility is a tough path. To have such conviction, one must have strength in their character, mind and soul that must be derived and based on meta principles and purpose of their life. So again, I'm just kind of trying to loop back through the circle that I talked about, through the cycle. So basically, to have such conviction and to have such courage and brave, obviously to have anything after from this point, to have free will, power, responsibility, courage, conviction, you need to have strength. Like this is how the cycle goes. So you need to have strength in your character, mind and soul, obviously. So if you have a purpose and you base your meta principles, you base your strength on those purpose, then you'll have the strength. If your strength is based on something that is superficial, then as I said, it will not be a realized strength, it will be a useless strength in the end. It will lead to nothing. This passionate purpose is forged when fighting in tough times filled with suffering, along with strong grip principles, fueling to be honest, with self and life. Yeah, it is tough. Like we should like read this properly and with calmness and get an idea. So this kind of strength is forced, or it comes from suffering. And suffering with honesty, obviously, like when you're going through tough time, you find a purpose in that tough time. Like what should I assign myself to in that kind of way. So you find your purpose in the tough times when you're suffering and you're fighting. And at that time, if you have like proper honesty with yourself, obviously if you're not honest, you'll just go on Machiavellian philosophy and create complete chaos, try to find shortcuts to get things done. But if in those suffering times, if you have that much of honesty in yourself, then that principles in yourself, then you'll get this strength that I'm talking about. Okay, moving ahead. Point number 8. Honesty is achieved by confronting the reality and all of its facets without being delusional and escapist. Honesty is again achieved by confronting. You have to see the things as they are. You'll have to be honest with themselves. I think you can call this as some kind of virtue ethics that people have or does not have. But yeah, I think honesty is also something that you train yourself to be more and more honest when you just face reality as it is, and all of its facets without being delusional and escapist. So it's like you don't have to be honest in a way. Again, you don't have to be delusional and escapist. I think a lot of things can work out in this way. What I'm talking about, you just don't be bad, and I assume that after some time you'll end up being good in a way. Okay. Ultimately, it is very essential to at least be aware of all that needs confrontation. So fundamentally, this is the easier path, the one path in which you can just you have to be aware of the things for which you need to confront to. If I'll not be aware that there's a bull behind me, then I'll not be able to confront it and fight with it. So again, that was a very bad example, but that is what I was saying. You first need to be aware of the things for which you have to be, for which you need to confront and not run away from and not be delusional. And by this, again, you can just go towards free will. And the other way to go to free will directly from awareness is the one that I talked about, is to be aware of the things that are deterministic and then just be away from that. Again, that is not the only path to go from awareness to to free will. I'm just talking about two paths, one through this and one through that, and both of them are also not that concrete. Again, none of this is concrete. It's philosophy, it's abstraction. You can apply them to your life as you want. Now, coming to the application with others, like how does this free will and determinism things interact and work around with other people around? So, free will is expensive for non-aware, animalistic, deterministic, algorithmic cowards, not in resource but in responsibility. Animalistic algorithms running on survival instincts can't afford its cost, nor do they grasp its consequences, and therefore to offer free will when you are capable of not to is one of the greatest gifts one can offer. So obviously the tone of this thing is a bit harsh. I get that properly because I wrote it in a very bad situation, this point, and it is expensive because along with consciousness, all the other essential traits that I talked about above, like honesty, conviction, courage, being able to handle responsibility, strength, all these other traits that I talked about, these are expensive traits. So it's not like it is an expensive thing in its own. It requires a lot of expensive things to get to the expensive thing. It's that kind of stuff if you want to see like a boss kind of thing or hierarchical structure. So you cannot just directly get to it. Obviously there's a way to directly get to it, like from awareness to free will, but that will be the hard part. That's like the CISC method of complex instruction set processing. The other one, reduced instruction set processing, is through this path, but all of these are obviously reduced but still very complex. So free will is a very expensive thing. Not all can afford it. So even if someone is, let's say, honest, and even if someone is suffering, and even if someone has purpose, but if they don't have the strength to live with that, they don't have conviction, they don't have courage, they will not have free will. It requires a lot of things to actually and properly function. You can say in some way that the degree of freedom is dependent upon how much traits all of these traits person has, or how much good they are in all of these traits, how much strength a person has, how much honesty a person has. All this in a way account for how much free will a person will have, but at least they should have some of these things, and at least there should be an appropriate amount, a quanta amount, an eligible amount for it to properly work through all of this cycle thing. So it's an expensive thing. Not all can afford it, and obviously it is expensive not in terms of resources. As I see a lot of arguments in this thing, you don't need a lot of money to be free in a little sense. You need a lot of courage, you need a lot of honesty, you need to be able to handle in responsibility. It is expensive in terms of responsibility. You need animalistic algorithms running on survival instincts can't afford its cost, nor do they understand its consequences. So again, a lot of people hedonistic, if you want to call it, the way that I have called them, monkeys in a way, running on algorithms through in survival instincts and all, they cannot afford it because they need to be more than animals. They need to be human. They need to be human enough to be humans to afford it. So a lot of people cannot afford it, and also they don't properly understand the requirement of it. They don't grasp the consequences of not having free will and being deterministic. That is one of the reasons they are not aware of the absence of free will. They are not aware of deterministic the flaws of deterministic life, and that's why they don't just grasp the consequences that it will have. And therefore, to offer free will when you are capable of not to, like let's say you have again learned all this, and I'm not gonna go in that Machiavellian section, but you're like good with manipulations, illusions, and all this stuff, and you know how to properly mold and manipulate free will of others because you know how to properly set equations to make people function in a specific way as per a deterministic path, but still you choose not to do that, and still you let people have free will. That is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to them, because to control someone's free will is one of the most evil thing that one can do. Machiavellian philosophy is whole based on this. So to not do that, even if you're capable of doing that, that is one of the greatest gifts you can do that. So coming to the 10th point, and also its exploitation is one of the biggest suffering to endure. So if you let someone have free will, you let them be on their path, and then you realize that they are the one who are exploiting your free will. So that is one of the biggest suffering to endure. So yeah, it's like the both thing. It is the biggest gift you can give, and therefore it is the biggest suffering you can have. To choose to go with the free will based decisions of such monkeys exhibit the free will of the chooser, not the monkey, and therefore to offer them free will is also like giving a gun to a monkey. So again, if you gave free will, or if you're going with the choice that is made by a monkey, like again an animalistic algorithmic coward, and you go with that, then that exhibits the free will of the chooser, the one that is you who is choosing to go with the algorithmic coward. It's not the problem with the algorithmic coward or monkey. So to go with the monkey is the choice of the person who is chooser, not about the monkey. And therefore, yeah, it's like giving a gun to a monkey, because again you are giving free will, such a big gift, such a big, I guess, power to someone who doesn't understand it, so someone who doesn't value it, the monkey. So yeah, but this is also the base philosophy of a lot of negative thinkers and villains. Yeah, Hydra and all. So it's not like you should not give free will to monkeys, to algorithmic cover. That is not what I'm trying to talk in this video, but I'm just saying this is how it all works. And with all of these examples, I'm not trying to make a point, I'm just trying to explain you the value of free will and what free will actually is and how does it work in a society. To give it or not to give it, that's an ethical question, depends upon metaphysical principles, blah blah blah. I'm not going to go in that about that in this video. Okay. To offer consequences for actions is to wield power, and doing so ethically demands responsibility for justice. Even in a small distinction, fairness must guide choices. The free will to forgive must not be deterministic and origin from awareness. Okay, so if you are able to make consequences, like the fact that you have the power of free will also gives you the responsibility of using that free will properly, as I talked about in the first segment of the video, in the structure part. So and with that power, you need to have this ethical stand, as I was saying about, to give others free will or not is also an ethical stand. Similarly, to be able to manipulate or fuck around with others using deterministic path is also an ethical choice and also an ethical thing. And at the same time, to give consequences to people if they have wronged you, again you have given the gift of free will and they have protected you, is also an ethical choice. And it's all about justice, and all the ethical philosophy comes into action. And this applies to small to large scale. Like a small scale as in, like, you give someone a pair of headphones because you think they will enjoy it, but they don't value it that much and they are not that free. They will just go through a deterministic path that by working on convenience, comfort and all. So that's a very small case, but obviously it applies to a larger case of free will, as I talked about a bit about love. Love is about free will. So in that case also it has a huge range, and in all of them justice needs to be appropriate. And sometimes justice doesn't mean vengeance. First of all, I don't see why people are so stupid to think that justice and vengeance are the same thing. I think that's why people are stupid. Yeah, the free will to forgive. Now again, you also have the free will to forgive at the same time. Yeah, so you don't just have the free will to do justice by like vengeance or something, but you also have the free will to forgive. You have the deterministic path is someone hit me, I hit them. That the animalistic deterministic. The free will is okay, someone hit me, I will think about it. I'll have the free will to not hit them back. That kind of thing. The humane quality, blah blah blah. You use your empathy in some way. the free will to forgive must not be deterministic. Free will to forgive must not be deterministic, and origin from awareness. It must origin from your awareness, and yeah, from this awareness, I mean a different context in terms of a bit about love, in terms of ethical groundings and all that stuff, metaphysical principles, wisdom in a way to when to use free will and when to not use free will, that kind of scenario. So yeah, it all comes into different domain. It will make the video too long, and I don't talk about it. Use determinism to forgive others. Use free will to forgive yourself, because you'll always be more about of yourself than others, and therefore others are product of their patterns, and only you are fully aware of your own struggles, can be easily concluded. It's a ton of a thing to talk in a very quick segment. I hope you read this and think about this very properly. Just take your time and think about it. But yeah, you can just take it as a rule if you want to. Use determinism to forgive others, and use free will to forgive yourself. If someone has wronged you in a way and you want to forgive them, then use determinism that okay, it's not they who has done this, it's the past, it's the family, it's blah blah blah, the therapy thing, the psychology therapy thing. You use determinism to forgive others, and use free will to forgive yourself. Okay, I did a mistake, I made a choice, it didn't work out, okay, I did a mistake, that kind of thing. Use free will to forgive yourself. Again, I'm compressing this huge tons of philosophy into such like lay terms, in such lay statements, in such lay examples, because to be honest, I don't really know how to express these things in any language. And yeah, it's a very complex topic. I think you can only properly understand it when you yourself think about it, apply this thing once or twice in your life, and realize the value what I'm talking about. You cannot just understand it. You will know about yourself the most. Again, awareness kind of thing. Therefore, you can use free will on yourself the most compared to others, if you want to see it in that way, because you're not aware about others' personal life, so you don't have that much. So you cannot properly be aware of their free will state. So because free will is directly proportional to awareness. Use determinism to take responsibility for self, and use free will to assign responsibility to others, because others will always be less aware of you than themselves, and therefore others should always have the option to explore suffering and take on power. In a way, Kyril of the previous point, free will, power, determinism, in this case, instead of choosing free will for yourself, you must choose determinism for yourself to take responsibility, and instead of giving others determinism, you must give free will. Why? Because again, you know yourself more, but again, others know you less in that kind of sense. So they will not be able to figure out your free will. Therefore, you must assign free will to others, and you must assign determinism to yourself to take responsibilities. Therefore, others should always have option to explore suffering and take on power. Think about it with your own mind. Have a brain. I hope you have that. Other properties of free will and determinism. Again, I could have talked about it way longer with a lot more points and blah blah blah, but I'm just talking about some points, and then like other points I've written it other properties. But obviously there can be again tons of things. Again, these are just 17 points out of this. If you make combinations, if you just think about them more, read between the lines, you can take out way more philosophy. Again, similar to what Nietzsche says, I would like to write 10 words that can describe 10 books. Awareness increases free will and decreases hypocrisy, but only if you're honest. If you're evil, awareness just becomes a tool for manipulations. Awareness sinks naiveness or innocence. The course of awareness is that very less things, both good and bad, are left to be done unintentional. Similar to what I was talking about earlier, metaphysical principles govern the whole functioning with awareness and free will and determinism. Free will and determinism ontologically or epistemologically, I think I talked about. Now, what does it mean and how can you work with it? Using metaphysical principles, that is what this point is about. So awareness is directly proportional to free will. Yeah, you can made it obvious, and that's important. That decreases hypocrisy. The more aware you will be, the more free will you have, the less hypocrite you will be able to be, because you'll be aware that you are being hypocrite in a way. You'll be aware that I made this choice, so I must act it this way. You cannot just simultaneously use free will and determinism based on your own convenience in a way, what hypocrisy generally goes by. Because again, coming to the second point, that because you're honest as well, if you remember that honesty was another important factor. So only if you're honest. If you're not honest and if you're evil, then you'll completely go Machiavellian and things will go completely collapse. You'll be using manipulations, blah, blah, blah. It will just completely collapse the whole system. Again, not completely collapse, it will just convert completely, I don't know what, inverse would be a good way. Just completely mirror the whole thing. It will be a complete negative thing. Same power, but like a different way. Guns don't kill people, people do. So you'll have the same gun, but instead of protecting, you'll be killing people in a way. It's all about the proper flow and honesty. If you just, and not just with honesty, with strength and all, like instead of strength, if you have weakness and you try to exploit that, then that will again become chaotic and evil, and it will get bad. So all of those elements that I talked about are most of the positive elements. If you just make the negative of them, you'll get a Machiavellian philosophy. You can derive all of the negative ways that humans and human society has been working, the game of power and all that stuff. Again, what most villains do. Since you'll be aware of all of the things, and you will be making your decisions, therefore there will be nothing left to do unintentionally, or like I did not do that by intention or choice. You cannot just do that. You cannot be like, okay, I fucked with your life, but I did not do it on purpose. It was an unintentional thing. You'll not be able to do that because you're aware of your states, and because you're making your own decisions. You're not just leaving them on deterministic path that has been embedded inside you. You are following a path that is chosen by you. You are using free will to choose your path. So nothing will be left unintentional. You cannot just live with that, and you cannot like do unintentionally bad things that also makes you feel happy. I think that's what we call guilty pleasure or something. But yeah, who am I to say all that? Okay, 15th point. To do bad things despite having the awareness of possible good thing is evil. Intentionally doing something bad. And to do good things while not having the awareness of possible bad thing is naiveness. Unintentionally doing good. The only way to do good and not be evil with awareness is via honesty and conscience. So again, in a way, I'm trying to just make you understand or make more sense of the structure that I talked about previously, how these all things are essential for each other, and how they all talks to each other in a bidirectional way. Whatever I guess, not being wrong is also not good. This is what I want to talk about. So doing good things but not with awareness is not actually good. That is naiveness. That is unintentional good. So to be good, and at the same time to have free will, to have awareness, again, good, free will and awareness, if you want all of these three package, then you'll have to go with honesty and conscience. You cannot go with, except for that. If you go with being good, but if you want to remove awareness and free will, then you can have the naiveness and unintentional good, but that doesn't count. And at the same time, if you want to have awareness, and if you want to do chaotic things, you want to have power and also have free will, but you want to do it for negative purposes, and if you don't want to be good, then obviously you are evil. So that is the whole structure. Like, it's a three thing. You can choose one of these things. I don't know how to describe it. Okay, 16th point. The more strongly and deterministically the goals are backed into ourselves, the more free will choices are needed to change it. Changing terminal goals, our deepest ends, is a psychological surgery, yet it is possible to do so with equivalent level of free will. This is just again a kind of correlation that I have made here so that you can properly get an idea about what I'm talking about. So the more deterministically you are determined to do something, you need the equivalent amount of strong free will choice to go against that. I am not very much deterministically programmed to have long hair, so for that I need very strong free will to go against that. Okay, I'll just have long hairs. I need a bit more. I'm a bit more strongly deterministically programmed to not have color on my hair, like green hair or blue hair. So I will need a bit more free will decisions to do that. Again, you can scale this up or scale this down. It depends upon you. So, but again, it needs equivalent amount of free will choice to change, and to change the final terminal goals, like again instrumental goals, to change the final terminal goal of our life. It's like a psychological surgery. It's a chaotic thing to choose free will in the first place. I am not deterministically determined to choose determinism. Therefore, it is easy for me to choose free will. But for someone who is deterministically determined to choose determinism, for them choosing free will would require a lot of free will. So again, you need, as I talked about in the initial segment of the video, that you'll need free will. That free will is recursive and self-referential, that you will need free will to have free will, and you can choose free will or determinism after having free will in the first place. So it's like you can be deterministic after being free willed, but you cannot be free willed by being deterministic. In a way, that's what I'm going to talk about. If you are too deterministically determined to be deterministic, but still you want free will, that for that you need to go through a chaotic level of psychological surgery. Yet it is possible to do so. It is possible to do so because I have done, in a way, a lot of people have done. If you want to call that, you can say that this is like changing your meta principles in a way, or corrigibility problem for machines. I think this is what I want to do in my professional life as well. But yeah, it is possible to do so, and it is like a psychological surgery. 17th point, last point. Adopting determinism is tempting. It removes burden, but choosing that is knowingly. Do I have the free will to choose to be not deterministic, or am I determined to not choose determinism? This answer loops. You don't escape it, you inhabit it. So, as I said in the starting of the video, I'm not giving you a definite answer that the reality is free will or reality is deterministic. I myself don't live in delusion, you can say, or with I don't know what, with a conviction that reality is free will and delusion. I'm not that kind of stupid person. I live with the fact that, again, reality is both deterministic and free will, and I use my own wisdom to choose when to choose which and how to work with what. So, but obviously choosing determinism is very tempting in a lot of cases, because choosing determinism takes away a lot of responsibility. Obviously it takes away a lot of power, you have to give something, but it also takes away a lot of responsibility from your own self, and it becomes easy. You can do unintentional bad things at the same time you'll only do unintentional good things, obviously. But yeah, it removes a lot of burden. Being deterministic does remove something from your life, that is not being able to actually be good or make actual decisions for yourself, to take power. But at the same time, it doesn't add you with negative things of free will. That is the curse of doing something evil. Like if you aware intentionally do bad, then that will be evil. And it doesn't also give the responsibility of having free will. So yeah, at the same time, it's about choice. If you want the good parts, you'll also have to take the bad parts of the free will in a way. So at the same time, to choose the good parts of determinism is easy. That's more tempting, and because again, we are evolutionarily designed to be deterministic in a lot of ways. So we are deterministic in that way. If I tell you that the reality is deterministic, will you choose to accept it? In a way. So yeah, do I have the free will to choose to not to be deterministic, or am I determined to not choose determinism? Again, as I said, I'm leaning toward free will. So am I free will to lean toward free will, or am I determined to lean toward free will? I don't know. I don't know a lot of things. This whole video was just me expressing my opinion about free will in a way. And it's your responsibility to reverse the cycle, or to think about determinism by your own. But yeah, that was all my thoughts. In the end, there's no definite answer for this as well regarding subjectivity and objectivity like that. So yeah, you don't escape it, you just inhabit it, you just follow your wisdom in a way. I'm giving a proposition for wisdom in a way. Yeah, and yeah, that will be all for this video. I hope you liked it, enjoyed it. It will be a tough thing to understand in the first go. I always welcome a discussion about this thing if you not talk about it. And yeah, that's all. Okay, now that TLW is set up, now that TLW is set up now, let me start with the actual points that I have to talk about. The third point. Free will is expensive for non-aware, animalistic, deterministic, algorithmic cowards. I know, a bit harsh to say it, but this was my just a bit subjective response to something that happened. Laws, even submission isn't entirely determined. Okay, fuck, I think this is the language is not so me. Okay, no, it's not, fuck it. Okay, just a quick audio check. I don't know how the audio is coming. I hope the audio is good enough. I can assume that there will be some kind of crackling noises in between, but I hope there are as less as possible. Anyhow, the wind is very less today. That is why there is so less background noise of wind and all. So I can probably also go with just directly recording through the phone's microphone. Okay, as I assumed and predicted last time, there was a lot of crackling noises, and I think if I would just speak a bit louder, and in the post editing I will just try to increase my volume. That will be easier than editing out all the like blurb, I don't know what, crackling noises from between the recording. I don't have time of editing in the first place. Yeah, let us see. I just now finished recording my free will video, and I missed some point. It clicked in my mind while talking about the segment, but I was waiting for that segment to come, and I missed that point. Now I'm trying to recall it so that I can record it in this background in this scenario, but I'm not able to do. This is a very common thing that happens to me while recording my videos, and it is very annoying.